All right, so I just woke up this morning and this is one of the videos that was recommended to me. I took the transcript as usual. I looked at it and it's everything that I've been telling you guys now for years. Years on end. Because my college experience wasn't worth it. College is a scam. Every day that I wake up and I think about college being a scam, I'm like, why aren't people listening? There are very few jobs that actually require a college degree to do them because college isn't work training. And so when you go out to the real world and you have a psych degree, a history degree, archaeology degree, and an English lit degree, this means absolutely nothing to a company like Intel. They want to know, where's your STEM degree? Where's your science, technology, engineering, or math degree? And even those degrees only get you so far without experience. And so you end up in this vicious place where you get out of school and you end up like me, where you're sending resumes out to big tech companies. You're trying everything you can. You're submitting your resume. You're editing your resume for jobs. You're doing whatever possible in order to be able to live, right? Because the thing about work is that we work because we need to live. We don't live to work. But in our disgusting society, the system wants us to live to work. And I completely disagree with that. And I agree with Gen Z that the system is completely broken and that it was intentionally created so that we could continue funding outdated sources of education because education isn't real when it doesn't pay off. It doesn't matter that I spent 20 years at the university trying to avoid being poor only to come out to work a dead end job that no one wants and you're stuck there for forever. You're stuck in the job you don't like forever. That's where I've been my entire life. I've been waiting for a good job since I entered the workforce, and at this point, I realize that it doesn't exist. Not with my skill set, not with what I learned at university, not with what I've taught myself. I'm stuck in a place that I don't want to be in, and no one likes the wage cage. But we're all in there together. And that's what really truly sucks about the wage cage is that we can't get out of it. And we know it's miserable. And it's just a place we go to generate enough dollars in order to have a little roof over our head and a little food uh, in our doggy bowl. That's it. That's all we get out of life. So, with that said, let's get into my talking points. So, I sent the transcript from this video into ChatGPT. It pumped out some talking points, but I cut them up and I have four instead of three, and we're going to try to get through all of these in around 10 minutes. So, let's get started with talking point number one. Degrees often fail to translate into job security or higher wages, leaving graduates stuck in low paying jobs while struggling to pay off student loans. My first job out of college was working in retail. I was stacking cans next to high school dropouts, and they were looking at me like, "What's that old guy doing here?" And I would look at them, and I'm like, this is my reward for spending half my life at college looking at these kids that obviously had no choice but to take this job as a person that has a fresh education that is quickly losing all of its glamour, right? As you get older, your education gets older. So your education is just something you did. Like for me, I graduated in 2017. So now it's been 7 years almost to the date. And I am wondering when it's going to pay off. But obviously, at 7 years out of college, no real jobs, long term unemployment. And I'm scratching my head wondering, it's like, well, what did I do to myself? And I've been saying this for so long that I keep waking up in the morning thinking my life is going to change, and it's not changing. In fact, every day gets worse because as my education gets older, it becomes more worthless. And then I stop and I think, well, how am I going to be competitive against a person that just got out of college, that's graduating next month with the exact same degree that I have? And it doesn't. You're stuck in a perpetual hell as an educated person. And there's nothing you can do. That's the worst part. It's like I don't know what to do. Like I can't go back to education. Like people have told me, it's, oh, you got to go get a master's degree and a PhD. I don't have time for that. I'm too old. And even if I did, I wouldn't have the 5 to 10 years of experience in order to do whatever job I wanted to do with that much education. So again, that puts me in a place of in a very low place. And you just kind of wonder, it's like, well, what am I supposed to? I keep asking this question every single day when I wake up. I ask myself this question: what am I supposed to do? I want a better job. I want better housing. I want a nicer car. I want to move out of this horrible neighborhood. But there's nothing. There's no handles. There's no way of getting out of this in any conceivable way. So you just start, I think that a lot of us are just starting to feel crazy. And that's exactly where I'm at. Sometimes I just think to myself, I start having a panic attack about what am I supposed to do? There's no way out of this. And you're just kind of like sitting here just looking at Indeed and you're like, there's no jobs here. There's no real jobs. There's just minimum wage. Minimum wage doesn't do anything for you other than force you to spend nearly all of your income just on housing where you don't want to live. All right, moving on to talking point number two. The rise of unpaid internships. Entry level jobs require years of experience, and automation has devalued traditional education, making the return on investment increasingly questionable. The rise of the unpaid internship. When I told people in college that they needed to get experience, everyone around me, I told them you need to get an internship. You need work experience. And that was really hard to do in my last degree in English literature. What are you supposed to do with an English literature degree other than teach? And when you when you put yourself into a degree program where the only job you know of that's for certain is teaching, and teaching doesn't pay anything, you're again in a really bad spot. But devalue traditional education is kind of the society we live in. Traditional education doesn't get you a traditionally good job, it just puts you in the hole. And making it easier to put yourself in the hole by just throwing student loans at you is stupid. Because I remember the last few years of going to college and how they would give you more information about how screwed you were. They actually give you a data sheet and show you exactly how much money you needed to make in order to pay back those student loans. And now looking back at what they claimed that you were going to be making out of school, because I was told that with my level of education that I'd be making over $150,000 a year. I've never made that much money, and I never will. And you're just like, well, if they assume that you were going to make this much money, but you come out of university and you're making minimum wage while working at McDonald's next to people who didn't try as hard, your immense effort in education was not rewarded. In fact, it was punished. Talking point number three. This imbalance has made higher education a risky financial gamble, especially when many career paths no longer require a degree. Many career paths don't require degrees because you don't use them in the actual career field. You learn what you need to learn, and that's your experience. That's why experience is king. Experience in the workplace is king because it means that you can come into a job and do the job without training. And that's what corporations want. They don't want to train people. They haven't wanted to train people in 20 years. They want you to have the experience so that day one, you can start doing the job. Like my current job is exactly that. They expected you to know server, networking, customer service, desktop support, all of these fields. You are expected to be able to solve a problem on your own at any given moment throughout the day. That is expecting a lot from a person for a very small paycheck. It reminds me of that lady who's going to run an entire mental health facility, be on call 24/7 for $12.50 an hour for 40 hours, when that job is clearly not a 40-hour work week. This lady was just discussing a little while ago that her superiors, when she worked in corporate America, told her that she needed to put in more hours, that she needed to be more ambitious. Let's see if I can get a little quick talking point here.
Loyalty to a company and trumping everything. And so Gen Z is just trying to figure out what their new path is. And for a lot of them, it just looks like prioritizing a healthy work life balance. If work isn't going to give you the dream life you thought you would have, then at least let's enjoy the day to day while we have.
Okay, so I was watching this video and I didn't quite hit the correct clip there. But she talks about how corporations want loyalty above all else. But that loyalty is gone from Gen Zero. And it is gone from other generations. Even millennials realize that once the idea of a pension disappeared, that we're not going to retire. We're switching jobs every year to 2 years in order to get raises. You don't get a raise from your current corporation. You get a raise from walking across the street and trying to find a job at another place. And I see this every day at my current job. We didn't lose 200 people in 1 month because of all of the great opportunities that are available at this evil corp. They're just not there. And people, after a year or two of not being valued, in fact, of being told how disposable you are. And that's what I've gotten every single day that I've worked for this company is like, you're completely disposable, millennials team, and you need to know that and be grateful that you still have a job. And that's where I'm at right now. A week before Thanksgiving, I am supposed to be grateful for having a job, and I'm not, because I'm sitting here on my vacation with nothing to do. I can't afford to do anything. I can't afford to go anywhere. And once the holidays are over, it's the next, what, 10 months without any reasonable amount of time off. Once you hit January again, after January 1st and New Year's, the next holiday that you're going to get paid off is Memorial Day. And you're like, oh my God, Memorial Day? The last day of May? So you're going to go 6 months without a day off. That's how it works. Then you hit the summer months and you get Memorial Day. Then you hit the 4th of July, and it's Labor Day. From Labor Day, we don't get another real day off until Thanksgiving and Christmas. That's it. That's the work year right there. And it sucks because it really doesn't take into account how much suffering people go through in order to sustain themselves. Which leads me to my final talking point. By questioning the value of traditional school, Gen Z is exposing the cracks in the system and redefining what it means to build a fulfilling and sustainable life. Well, the system has lots of cracks in it, but just like a prison, it's not designed for you to escape. The walls are tall, the walls are lined with barbed wire, and there are sadistic guards waiting for someone to get out of line and make certain that you don't get out of the system while still breathing. That system is alive and well in America right now. And as I've said 100 times, the work release program in America is despicable. What are you supposed to do on the work release program when all you can do is go to a crummy job and then at 5 o'clock you return back to your cage? And this is what passes for a vacation in this system. Sitting at home in the dark talking to yourself while you wonder what's going to happen to me next, because job security in a place like this isn't real, and you don't have any savings because you're just scraping along paycheck to paycheck, and you kind of like think to yourself, it's like, well, when are things going to get better? They're not. That's the worst part about all of this. When are things going to get better? They are not going to get better. This is the way it is. Unless we fundamentally change the way that society works, this is it. This is as good as it gets. And I am completely disgusted with this system beyond belief. And I'm sitting here telling you guys this because I want you to be disgusted in this system. I want you to be mad that this is how they want to treat us. You know, she goes on to talk about in this video about how we need to change the system to include higher wages, better benefits, longer vacations, more mental health days. And I'm just thinking to myself, that's a really fancy wish list for a system that wants the exact opposite. They want a 7 day work week. They want a 20-hour work day. They want you to live in fear. They want you to know that they control your finances. And by controlling your finances, they control your life. That's really what it comes down to at the end of the day. When they control your finances, they control your job security. All you have is nothing. And they know that, and they will hold it against you for the rest of your life.